Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's story is one of the most shocking and explosive twists in the entire Russia-Ukraine war. A strike so unexpected, so aggressive, and so symbolically powerful that it immediately sent shockwaves across Moscow, Kiev, Europe, and every military command room watching the conflict. Ukraine has reportedly launched one of its most mysterious and powerful new weapons, known as the Flamingo missile, in what many are calling a massive revenge strike against Russia. Whether this weapon's name is official, experimental, or purposefully kept secret, one thing is clear: the impact it made has forced Russia to rethink the safety of its sites far behind front lines. The attack came at a moment when tensions were already high. Russia had carried out several strikes across Ukrainian cities, hitting infrastructure, military positions, and even residential areas. These attacks had pushed Ukraine towards seeking stronger, longer-range retaliatory capability. The world knew Ukraine was increasing its drone range, experimenting with long-distance modifications, and receiving advanced support from allies. But nobody expected something like the Flamingo missile to appear so suddenly on the battlefield. The scale of the explosion, the precision of the strike, and the deep penetration into Russian territory immediately raised questions. What exactly was this missile, and how did Ukraine manage to deploy it so effectively? The most surprising part is that the strike did not target a random depot or an isolated radar station. Instead, Ukraine reportedly aimed this weapon at a hive, Russian military position believed to be storing ammunition, fuel, or advanced drone systems. Early satellite images leaked online within hours showed a massive black crater surrounded by scorched earth. Russian channels tried to downplay it by claiming the explosion was an internal accident. But the pattern of destruction looked nothing like an accident. It looked like a deliberate and highly precise strike. Witnesses from nearby towns described a loud crack like thunder, followed by a rising orange blast that could be seen for kilometers. Some Russian civilians filmed the smoke column and posted it online before the videos were quickly deleted. Those clips, however, had already begun circulating worldwide. Analysts paused the footage frame by frame. The explosion didn't resemble a typical drone strike. It was far too powerful. It appeared concentrated, controlled, and almost instantly devastating. That's when the first rumors surfaced about something new being used, something Ukraine had kept hidden until the right moment. Military experts began digging deeper, trying to determine the origins of the so-called Flamingo missile. Was it an entirely Ukrainian creation? Was it based on Western technology? Was it a hybrid design with local modifications? In past months, Ukraine's engineers had proven capable of modifying old Soviet missiles, converting them into long-range precision weapons, and enhancing explosive payloads beyond standard specifications. Some analysts suggested this missile might have been an experimental weapon developed from domestically produced long-range drones, but engineered into a faster, more stable, more destructive missile platform. Others speculated that the name Flamingo was not official, but rather a code name used by Ukrainian military units to hide its real identity. In war, information is also a weapon, and Ukraine has mastered the art of confusion. Keeping Russia guessing is itself a strategy, forcing the enemy to waste time, effort, and resources preparing for threats that may or may not exist. Whether the missile is Ukrainian, built foreign, assisted, or completely new, Russia suddenly has to reconsider the safety of military sites far from the front lines. Meanwhile, Russian state media struggled to control the narrative. For the first several hours, they denied anything had happened. When satellite photos surfaced, they called it sabotage. When Western analysts published assessments, Russian officials tried to claim it was a small fire. But when images of the crater and destroyed structures leaked from Russian telegram channels, their story collapsed. The explosion was too large to hide, the damage too visible, and the symbolism too strong to ignore. Ukraine had proven it could strike deep, accurately, and with firepower that Russia did not expect. The timing of the strike was also crucial. Russia had been increasing pressure in several frontline regions, attempting to capture towns and weaken Ukrainian defenses. At the same time, Ukraine was exhausted, its troops stretched thin, its resources constantly tested. Morale was becoming a challenge. What Ukraine needed was a moment of power, something that could shift momentum, lift morale, and remind both Russia and the world that Ukraine was still capable of hitting back hard. This missile strike became that moment. Ukrainian soldiers across the front posted messages celebrating the explosion, calling it a sign that Ukraine still had fight left, still had tools Russia feared, and still had surprises that Moscow could not predict. International reactions came quickly. Military analysts in Europe called the attack a strategic message strike, meaning the purpose was not just destruction, but psychological impact. The United States, the UK, and other allies quietly analyzed the strike's precision. Some officials hinted that Ukraine's long-range technology had significantly improved. Others warned that Russia might retaliate aggressively. But regardless of reactions, one fact stood out. Ukraine had demonstrated capability beyond what Russia believed possible. Russian military commanders were furious. Some criticized the security failures that allowed such a strike. Others demanded stronger defenses, more radar coverage, and deeper missile interception zones. But the reality is harsh. Russia's territory is huge, and defending every warehouse, command post, and fuel storage facility is nearly impossible. Ukraine knows this and is using it to its advantage. With each new long-range strike, Russia becomes more stretched, more confused, and more pressured. Ukrainian officials did not confirm the Flamingo missile's existence, but they didn't deny it either. That silence only fueled speculation. Many experts believe Ukraine intentionally allowed the missile to remain mysterious. The less Russia knows, the more it fears. If Moscow cannot understand how Ukraine is striking far behind the lines, it must prepare for every possibility, and that forces it to divert resources from the front. Ukraine thrives on that asymmetry. It knows it cannot match Russia tank for tank or plane for plane, so instead it fights with intelligence, creativity, and unpredictability. The psychological impact of this strike cannot be overstated. Russian citizens living far from the war zone began asking questions. How did Ukrainian missiles reach so deep? Are their own towns vulnerable? Is the war coming closer? These questions create internal pressure on the Russian government, pressure that Russia spends energy trying to control. And that's exactly what Ukraine wants. A distracted Russia is a weaker Russia. A Russia worried about its own safety is a Russia with fewer resources to attack Ukrainian cities. For Ukraine, this strike is a statement. It is a message that even after months of exhaustion, blackouts, drone attacks, and pressure from all sides, the country still has the ability to shock the world. It still has the capacity to deliver powerful blows. And it still has the determination to fight for every inch of its territory. Every strike like this reminds the world that Ukraine will not simply wait for peace. It will push for victory. The Flamingo missile, whether real or codename, showed that Ukraine is entering a new phase of warfare, one where long, range precision attacks are becoming more common. This is no longer a war stuck on the front lines. This is now a battlefield stretching across borders, skies, oceans of information, and technological innovation. Russia's assumption that distance equals safety has been shattered, and the more Ukraine surprises Russia, the harder it becomes for Moscow to maintain control. As this story develops, the world will keep watching. More details about the missile will eventually emerge. More strikes may follow, and the balance of power could shift again. But for now, one truth stands strong. Ukraine has shown that it can respond to attacks with devastating effectiveness. And Russia, despite all its claims of strength, continues to face vulnerabilities that it cannot easily seal. With this strike, Ukraine has not only delivered a message, it has rewritten the rules of the game.